Okay, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we're going to be talking about kind of a lesser known model, but kind of a real niche player. Those who know about the watch are pretty big fans, I'd say. And this is the Certina DS Action Diver. A little bit about the brand. Certina is a Swiss-made brand. They were actually founded in 1888. You'd be able to read that on the dial, but unfortunately the hour marker is kind of obstructing that. It is a Swatch Group brand. It is positioned in the middle range. It's kind of similar to Mito in that it's a lesser known cousin to Hamilton and Tissot. And as you can see, this is a dive watch, an ISO certified diver at that. So it of course has water resistance, screw down crown, tough, legible, has a dive bezel and a diver extension. Now, the formal name is the DS Action Diver. You might hear it just kind of referred to as the Action Diver. DS, I believe, stands for dual shock, and that's kind of just an old proprietary technology that Certina kind of patented and trailblazed on with, which really just makes the watch a lot more susceptible, or I should say less susceptible to shock, to being damaged through kind of shaking or jolting or dropping. The retail price is not too shabby at all at about $895, with a kind of street price at $550 to about $700. This is a stainless steel watch with a case size of 43.2 millimeters and a really thin profile with a height about 10 millimeters there. As you can see, really nice machined sides there, but it's a nice piece with some real refinement. So let me zoom out and I'll pick the watch up here and just get a little bit more hands-on with it. So as you can see, it does come in at a decent size. It is a 43 and some change, but it actually plays a little bit smaller on the wrist due to a couple of things. One of them is this really big bezel here, which makes the dial appear slightly smaller. So it's definitely going to, it's not going to look like a huge watch by any means on the wrist. I mean, depending on your wrist size, of course. It does have a flat sapphire crystal with inner AR coating, as you can see. So this is going to be a very nice legible dial at all times. And it does have a 60-click unidirectional rotating bezel, which is very nice, as you can hear. It's very smooth, and of course, since it's only 60 click, it's gonna have slightly more play than 120 click bezel, but I can't fault it. It's easy to use even with these gloves on, and it is nice to look at. So screw down crown, signed with the patented DS there, which is nice, and you can see how the light really just plays on those machined case sides. Now inside powering this is an ETA 2824 TAC 2, which is of course hacking hand windable. It's pretty much the standard movement for watches, for Swiss watches anyway, that are not using an in-house movement. So the case back is solid and etched, as you can see. It has the nice Certina turtle, and we'll see the that folding clasp there. And so get a closer look at the turtle. Nice, not the deepest of etchings, but still a nice piece nonetheless. Definitely quality. better than your average micro brand case back that you'll see. And it does have a diver's extension. It is only stamped, but you know what? It definitely does the job. So it's nice to see that there. Really checks all the boxes. And, you know, and then it has the date there kind of in between the 4 and 5 o'clock, which not everybody's crazy about. I think it would have been nice to see this with a color match date wheel, or even just a black date wheel with white font, just so it was, you know, I feel like when you put it in a position like that, you want it to be more integrated and draw less attention to itself. So why not, you know, make it blend in just a little bit better? You know, if they wanted to stand out, then they could have put a, you know, maybe a nice frame around it. But at least it's perfectly centered there in between those two indices, which is nice. So speaking of the indices, they are applied, and hopefully the camera can pick this up, but these are just really nice, deeply filled indices. So this is not some, you know, little, they give the illusion of being applied indices, you know, due to the printing techniques used. These are actual applied indices, and they are very nicely done, and they are full of BGW9 Superluminova. It has this great sunburst dial, which even carries out into the bezel insert there. So there are many watches that have a sunburst dial. This actually could be said has a sunburst bezel, because it picks up light in the same way. The material is not sapphire. It's filled with some sort of, I really am not sure. I couldn't find anything solid online, but I'd imagine some type of polyurethane. And then the indexes on the bezel insert are actually loomed from the triangle marker all the way to about the 20-minute mark, which is very nice. So this is, of course, water resistant to 200 meters, and it's ISO 6425 certified, which makes this a legitimate diver, which is nice. So, you know, they test it in warmer waters and colder waters. You know, of course, it does have a, you know, a loomed pip at 12 and also the loomed second hand. So it just meets all those very, you know, kind of technical professional requirements for a dive watch. So let me get this on wrist. So as you can see, wears very nicely, a little bit smaller than you might think. Unfortunately, the date window, you can see the 3 o'clock, or I'm sorry, not the 3 o'clock, but the 3 for the date is actually sinking there in the date window because it is midnight, approaching midnight within the next couple of minutes here. So don't think that it's misaligned. It is actually just doing its job. As you can see, this case finishing is fantastic. Although it is polished here, you know, around, you know, the hands are polished, the indices are polished, the bezel's polished. The rest of the watch is a mixture of brushed and machined. And you'll see, you know, of course, the machined edges on the case and also on the bracelet. But it's a fantastic brushing, very uniform. I mean, not quite as nice as my Hydro Conquest, but definitely very nicely brushed and solid, chunky bracelet. The one drawback is, I would say, is that the lug width is actually 19 millimeters instead of, you know, the standard 20, which is unfortunate. It makes it a little bit less versatile, but, you know, Certina did make a really, really nice bracelet, so I'm not going to be in a hurry to swap it out anytime soon. But I think proportionally, it's a really great bracelet. You know, it's not like some of the more expensive Seikos you might buy where it's extremely thin. I feel, you know, like for the Sumo, even the Marine Master, I mean, it seems like such a tall watch to have such a thin bracelet. And I think that Certina got it very, you know, pretty much on point when it came to the scale and the proportions of the watch. It's just very finely balanced, which, you know, I really can't argue with. Nice taper to the bracelet for a little bit more comfort and refinement there. It does use push pins, and it does have on the clasp, there are 3 micro adjusts, which is nice, so you can really dial it in. Plus there are half links, as you can see, so you can get a really nice fit as far as if you want it to be not too tight, not too loose. This is definitely a great watch for you. Some closing thoughts on wrist is, I mean, this is a very sporty, you know, toolish personality kind of watch with a splash of refinement. I mean, the execution is just fantastic. There are some variants, of course. There's a black stainless steel model. There's a gray titanium model. There's also automatic chronographs, which are slightly larger, and rightfully so. I mean, that's a larger movement to fit into there. Some comparable models, I would say, would be something like the Oris Aquis, the date model. Similar theme, except I'd say, you know, the Oris Aquis is, you know, a little bit more original, and more of a stylized approach. Another comparable watch would be something like the Longines Hydro Conquest, which has a similarly, you know, kind of classic aesthetic, but, you know, with a more refined approach. This one, you know, there is some refinement there, but, you know, this watch is definitely has some pizzazz to it on purpose, and you know, it has that, you know, machismo, where it's not really shying away from being wrist candy, which is pretty nice. And you know, the watches I compared it to are much more expensive. I mean, not even just retail wise, but even just kind of a street price. Those watches are definitely more expensive. So this is a watch that can hold its own, and really, you know, this is kind of the argument watch for, you know, why pay so much for one of the more expensive Seikos when you can have a watch like this, or, you know, for a micro brand when you can have a watch from a company that was, you know, established in 1888, that has a nice lineage and puts out great quality. So this is a really cool watch. You know, the bottom line is it's very stylish, and it's a solidly built piece. I mean, this thing is referred to as a tank in pretty much every review I've ever seen for it. So let's go ahead and hit the lights and get a great loom shot, because this is one of the watches with, of course, outstanding loom, as you can see. There you go. And don't mind the reflection of the LED there on the bracelet, but you can see the fine brushing, so I'll just kind of flicker that around, which is nice. You can see how uniform it is, you know, very little variance. But as far as the dial goes in the loom, you'll see that, you know, the entire bezel is not loomed, but to about that 20-minute index is. So that's a nice feature, and I think it actually looks really cool at night and doesn't, you know, overpower the dial by having, you know, so many, you know, let's say if the whole thing was glowing, I think it might not look as nice, but it's definitely a great piece. The loom is very nice. You know, it's a solid contender for, you know, and here we get a little farther away. It's a really great watch, I think, and it's a nice kind of in-between piece for maybe, you know, somebody who just wants to, maybe has had a lot of Japanese watches and kind of wants to get into Swiss watches, but they don't want to pay for nothing. You know, they want to get their money's worth as far as quality goes, and something they can be proud to wear, something that's a little bit exclusive, but at the same time is going to be easily serviceable. And you know, and if around, you know, watch insiders, people will know this model, and you know, it's a forum darling, and there's a lot of reasons for that. It's a very well put together, great looking watch. So and it's definitely proud of its design, because Certina made it quite bold in its aesthetics. So if you have any comments about the Certina DS Action or just the brand itself, feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you like this video, you know, make sure you hit like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe, because we definitely have a lot more content coming your way, and we definitely want to have you guys along for the ride. So until next time, definitely have a good one, and you know, don't forget to leave a couple comments in there if you have any questions. Thanks, guys.
Let it